Welcome to Breaking War, where we bring you the sharpest geopolitical insights from the front lines of conflict. If you're looking to stay ahead of the curve in understanding global military and political developments, you're in the right place. Israel's preemptive strike on Iran, a calculated escalation. In the early hours of the morning, the Middle East was shaken by an extraordinary development. Israel launched a sweeping, multi-layered preemptive strike against Iran. This was no symbolic gesture. It was a targeted, strategic operation designed to degrade Iran's nuclear infrastructure and send a decisive message to Tehran's leadership. According to Israeli officials, dozens of fighter jets struck multiple sites across Iran, including the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility and suspected missile development sites. High-rise buildings believed to house senior military and nuclear personnel were also hit, signifying an escalation not just against military assets, but against the institutional backbone of Iran's nuclear ambitions. This operation, dubbed Rising Lion by Israeli command, is being framed as a response to Iran's rapid acceleration of its uranium enrichment program. Israeli intelligence suggests Iran is just days away from possessing enough fissile material for as many as 15 nuclear bombs. The specter of a nuclear-armed Iran in Israel's strategic calculus is an existential threat. In response, Israel has declared a national state of emergency. Citizens are ordered to shelter in place. Airspace has been shut down. The Iron Dome and Arrow missile defense systems are on high alert, bracing for what Israeli defense officials say is an imminent Iranian retaliation, likely in the form of ballistic missiles and drone swarms. This strike represents not only a military maneuver, but a geopolitical gamble. It unfolds against a backdrop of stalled nuclear negotiations between Iran and the United States. While Washington claims it had no direct involvement, the timing and scale of Israel's operation suggest a tacit approval, or at the very least, strategic coordination. Former U.S. officials have hinted at quiet preparations in the region, including the repositioning of missile defense assets from Ukraine to the Middle East. Whether this points to deeper American complicity or simply geopolitical readiness remains ambiguous. But the message is clear. The United States may not be directly pulling the trigger, but it is not an uninvolved observer. Economically, the ripple effects have been immediate. Oil prices spiked nearly 9% within hours of the strikes. Bitcoin dropped, the S&P futures fell, and safe haven assets like gold saw a modest rally. For global markets, the strike marked a stark reminder that Middle Eastern volatility is never just regional, it's global. Yet perhaps the most chilling detail is the nature of some of Israel's targets. Penthouses in Tehran, reportedly housing senior military scientists. This suggests not merely a strike against infrastructure, but psychological warfare, targeting the very minds behind Iran's nuclear program. From a strategic standpoint, this operation signals a shift in Israel's deterrence doctrine. No longer is it just about warning Iran, it's about inflicting tangible setbacks, physically, structurally, and symbolically. But this is far from over. Iran has vowed to retaliate, and while past counterstrikes have largely been intercepted by Israel's layered missile defenses, the possibility of an overwhelming, sustained attack, perhaps coordinated with Iran's regional proxies, cannot be ruled out. Meanwhile, Israel's leadership has made it clear. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes. That raises a fundamental geopolitical question. Are we on the brink of a broader regional war? With Hezbollah in the north, Houthi rebels in the south, and Iranian influence stretching across Iraq and Syria, any retaliatory response from Tehran risks igniting multiple fronts. And with that, the region edges closer to a tipping point, a moment where diplomacy becomes nearly impossible and military confrontation becomes the norm. The strategic message behind the strike. Israel's offensive carries with it a dual purpose. First, to delay or destroy Iran's nuclear capability. Second, to reaffirm deterrence across the entire region. In doing so, it sends a strong message not just to Tehran but to other actors. Israel is willing to act alone and act decisively. This is critical because the Biden administration, embroiled in domestic issues and approaching an election cycle, has been reluctant to engage directly. That hesitancy has created a power vacuum. A vacuum Israel is now filling through unilateral action. What's also striking is the sophistication of the operation. Reports indicate a combination of cyber warfare, electronic jamming, and high-precision strikes. Israeli jets reportedly bypassed some of Iran's Russian-supplied air defense systems, a feat that suggests meticulous planning and perhaps even intelligence cooperation from external partners. The fact that these strikes occurred despite ongoing nuclear negotiations highlights a broader collapse of trust. Israel may no longer believe that diplomatic efforts will bear fruit in time. Instead, the calculus has shifted toward hard power, with the hope that overwhelming force might buy more than just time. It might prevent catastrophe and implications for the broader region. For Iran, the political cost of not retaliating is immense. Domestically, the regime must demonstrate strength. Regionally, it risks losing credibility among its proxies and allies. Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria could become instruments of retaliation. And if they act, Israel will likely respond in kind, expanding the scope of the conflict. The Gulf states, too, are watching closely. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have long feared Iran's nuclear ambitions. While they may not publicly support Israel's actions, they could quietly approve of anything that curtails Iran's regional ambitions. Russia and China, both with vested interests in Iran, could also be drawn deeper into the diplomatic fallout. Russia, in particular, having supplied air defense systems to Iran, may see this as a failure of its military exports, and could respond through proxy channels or by escalating tensions elsewhere. And then there's the question of nuclear proliferation. If Iran edges closer to a weapon, others may follow. Saudi Arabia has already indicated it would seek nuclear parity. The specter of a nuclear Middle East, where multiple states possess atomic capabilities, is not just a regional concern. It's a global nightmare. What comes next? If Iran retaliates with restraint, perhaps targeting symbolic Israeli infrastructure or launching cyber attacks, a fragile status quo may return. But if Tehran chooses a maximalist response, especially one that leads to mass Israeli casualties, Israel may feel compelled to escalate further. In that scenario, we could see a cascading conflict. Airstrikes in Syria, full-scale clashes with Hezbollah, and a reignition of hostilities in Gaza. The United States would find it increasingly difficult to stay on the sidelines, especially if American personnel or interests are targeted. At this point, the world is watching for two things: Iran's next move, and whether international diplomacy can still pull the region back from the edge. This has been Breaking War. If you value independent, sharp-eyed geopolitical analysis, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Stay alert, stay informed, and above all, stay critical. Until next time.